Today's a special day, Hugh. It's Leap Day.
Leap Day, yeah.
Like
extra
Leap Day
day of Black History Month.
That's when I said it to you this morning. You're like, oh, yeah.
Extra day.
It is. February 29th. We don't get these, obviously once every 4 years. All right, and today on Leap Day, this year on Leap Day, it got me thinking about the calendar, right? You look at the calendar every once in a while, and I looked at it today because we are very close now to NFL free agency, the start of the new league year. March 13th, we'll be at McGurk's for our Birds Town Hall, and that will be day one of the new league year. March 11th, that Monday, that'll be when legal tampering starts, right? When the GMs and the agents, legal tampering.
Legal.
Which sounds funny because tampering's
been going on for a while.
Yeah, but you could talk, right?
Yeah.
Legally, you could talk on Monday, March 11th. You can make offers to players. You could do all that kind of stuff. So the clock is ticking here, and Hugh, it's ticking on someone in particular. It's ticking on Jason Kelce to make a decision on his future. Look, we know, I mean, since the season ended, there was that report that came out the next day. We kind of already said goodbye to Jason Kelce in a weird way at WIP. We all thought he had retired, but he never said he retired, and he said he wanted to tell everyone his decision when it was time. And now we are nearly at March. We're nearly at the start of the new league year, and he hasn't said anything whether he's in or he's out. So my belief is the Eagles need to give him a deadline. I mean, I think they've been very respectful of his last month and a half, making his decision, trying to figure this out with his family, obviously doing some stuff at the Super Bowl with other networks, like, sitting down with Amazon and whatever, trying to figure out if there's a role for him. And I get this is a hard decision. It's one I've never had to do. Hugh, you had to do a decision like this.
I didn't really have.
Well,
I didn't have it. They made it for me.
You're right. They did.
made it for me. I didn't have a choice.
But I get how difficult it could be to be a high-level player and to still be young in life and not know what to do. It's hard. And we watched the documentary last year, so I know it's really hard on him. But if I'm the Eagles, I need to know. And here's the way I'll say it this way. I give him a week. Like from today, I give him 1 week because if I'm Howie, I need to have that weekend right before the league year starts, before legal tampering, to figure out my salary cap situation, to figure out my plans and my, going after a guard in free agency, whatever. And the way I view this is they need to know how much money they have to spend in free agency. They need to know if they're going to go after a replacement on the offensive line of free agency. And I got a new offense to install with a new coordinator. I need to know, are you in or are you out, even before I make draft plans in April, because I might draft a kid there. 215-592-9494. We all love Jason Kelce. And Jason Kelce gets 1 more week, if I'm Howie, to make a decision. Hugh, where do you come down on this? Because it's almost March, and we don't know yet.
See, like, I agree with you with the hard deadline. I just don't like all the bass that you have in your voice, Joe. I mean, the bass in your voice makes me a little like you making it feel like you're being aggressive. I don't think it needs to be that. I understand the week thing. I don't know if I would give him 1 week to figure it out, but he has to let me know before free agency gets going. Like I'll probably say the night before free agency, I would like to know, because then that way I can figure out, my moves I'm going to make. And as far as the money is concerned, listen, if I'm going into this thing, because Jason Kelce is still the best center in the game right now, even if he's going to retire and if he decides to come out, he's the best center in the game.
Sure.
As we speak. So I'm going to give that man as much time as he possibly can. And I understand that I would like to think that Jason loves this organization enough to not leave them in a bind like that. I mean, he understands that there's a time limit to this. So I don't think he would leave them in a bind. So with everything you're saying, I'm on board with. But it's just all that bass in your voice, Joe. You need to kind of take a little bit of that out. He don't need to just be like, it don't need to sound like you talking about, yo, you need to tell me this day, and if it don't happen, then we got to make a move. It don't have to be like that.
Well, it does. I mean, he's got
not really.
Well, that's a hard deadline, Hugh. I don't think of it as anything but, Jason, I need to know by this date if you're in. We want you to be in, but if you're not, sure, we're moving on. I mean, if I'm Howie, I have to move on.
Those words are so harsh, though.
But
you don't need those words.
But
you
why?
don't need to use those words. Because he's a Hall of Famer, man. You don't need to handle him like that.
Are they the Jason Kelces or the Philadelphia Eagles?
See that way? Why are you going to go there with it?
Because you said he's a Hall of Famer. What does that have to do with my team?
He's the best player at his position still.
Wonderful. That's
so
great.
I understand the situation that I'm in, especially with the new cap ramifications and all that stuff. That's not an issue for me. I just need to know if he wants to play or not, and if he's going to be all in. Because that was one of the questions that he had last year when the thing started to slide, whether or not he can make that type of commitment that would have him all in.
And he's had almost 2 months to make a decision. Like I didn't say, Jason, day after the playoff game, I know it's the wound is tough right now and it's hurting. Tell me what you're doing. The Eagles have given him plenty of time. Let's listen to Howie Roseman first at the Combine press conference today, because here's what I'm wondering here. Are the Eagles actually going to give him a deadline? I think they should. Howie did not sound like he's interested in deadlines here, and I don't know about that. Here's Howie a couple days ago.
Obviously, those guys are unbelievable players, unbelievable people, and they deserve the right to decide what's best for them. And, we'll wait and give them whatever time and space they need to make the right decisions. And I think the important thing from our perspective is you'd never want to see them wearing different colors. And I think for us, no matter when that is, if they want the opportunity to come back, we'd want to have the opportunity to bring them back.
Well, I understand that part. They don't want to see him wearing different colors. You want to give him time. Look, I understand there's a delicate balance.
Time. Yeah, it is.
But he can't have as much time as he needs. I have to either move on and build my team or not. So a couple things. One, he doesn't play for cheap, right? So that affects my cap room.
I'm not worried about the money part, by the way, when it comes to Kelce. But I get it.
Yeah. No, I'm not worried about paying him, but I am worried about allocating the money if he's not coming back, because I could lose out on a safety I need. I could lose out on a linebacker.
I get that point.
So I need to know with that. And the other thing is, I got to know if I need a replacement, right? Like it's a player. But by the time we get to McGurk's on March 13th, I would guess like 10 of the top interior linemen, guards or centers or whatever, they're going to be gone. So if Jason doesn't know, then I might lose out on those players.
Yeah,
and I can't do that.
See, this is what I think, and this is why I feel like it doesn't have to be as heavy-handed, because I understand, well, I think that Jason understands the position that the Eagles are in and the timing. Like, this is one of those things where you're right, Joe. You're on the clock. You're definitely on the clock. But I don't want him to feel like he's being pressured, even though there is some pressure to this, because he understands that we have to get this train moving in the right direction. Now, as far as some of those contingencies that you're talking about, I think some of those are already in place, whether or not he's here or not. I think some of those are already in play because, this is not a checkers game. This is chess. And you always have to prepare for potentially what's going to happen. But as far as allowing him the time that he needs, I think that realistically, I give him up to the day before free agency starts, because there are going to be some conversations that are going to be had. As a matter of fact, during that period, there are probably some deals that are already going to be done. So I would even say push it back to make you feel a little bit happy, like 3 days before free agency starts. I need to know what your plan is. And on top of that, I don't think that Jason is the type of guy that once he makes a decision, that there's going to be a position or a situation where he's going to waffle on that decision and say, in a couple months from now, he's going to want to come back. Because I think that at that point, he's already going to have his deals in place for television, all that other stuff. Not saying that he can't come back if he wants to. But I think that his loyalty to the Eagles means more to him than going out there and just playing football just to be playing.
215-592-9494. Should the Eagles give Jason Kelce a hard deadline to make a decision? It is kind of bizarre we don't have a decision yet, and only for this reason. The reporting came out the day after the playoff game that he was going to retire. He's spent time here, obviously, the last couple months, meeting with networks and all that kind of stuff, like obviously preparing for his next time. I'm just kind of confused why he hasn't said it yet. It makes me think he's considering still playing. Like, all the tea leaves say he's going to retire. And maybe the Eagles know he is, and we just haven't had an announcement yet. Hugh, it is a little bizarre to me he hasn't said it yet, because the day after the playoff game, like Adam Schefter's reporting, he told his teammates he's retiring.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you got to think, like, Jason Kelce's in a rarefied position where he's a showman now. The longer he milks this, the better it is for him. I mean, to be honest.
In terms of, like, getting an offer from a network?
Offers from networks, being on all these different podcasts and doing all this different stuff. He might be thinking about it like that. Like, they're in a position, him and his brother, right now. I would venture to say that their podcast is killing it.
Oh, of course.
It's killing it.
I think
right
it's the
now.
number one sports podcast in the world.
Yeah, it's killing it. And everybody and their mother wants to talk to him. And the longer he holds on to this, it's almost the equivalent of, you remember back in the day when they had the little teenage heartthrobs and stuff, and they would say something to the effect that it's better if you're seen as being single, as opposed to having somebody in a relationship, because it just adds to the flair. It feels like it's probably some of that. Because you have one story coming out as soon as the season was over, and now they walked it back, and now he's been kind of milking this and being on every podcast and every show you could think of talking about his decisions. And the fact that Shaq's giving him decisions or giving him advice
Sure.
about what he should do. So there might be some strategies to all of this as well.
There might be, and that's fine. And look, he can do whatever he wants. He just got to tell the Eagles. I mean, like he doesn't have to tell me. I mean, I'd love to know. I think we'd all love to know as fans of his. But the Eagles got to know. And if I'm Howie, and look, it's not. I don't think it's out of turn for them to say, "Hey, Jason, we got to know. We have to plan here." And if I'm Howie and I'm the Eagles, I say I give you a week from today. I need a couple days that weekend to set all my plans up, to set my meetings up, to set up that first phone call. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be, but the Eagles are going to have a bunch of cap room, and when legal tampering starts, they're going to call a player and an agent, whoever that is. Maybe it's a pass rusher, maybe it's a safety, a corner, maybe it's an offensive lineman. If they know they're losing Jason Kelce, who's that first phone call going to? I need to know if I have this guy in or out. 215-592-9494. All right, Howie didn't stop, though, just at the press conference. He went on Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio, and Florio tried to press him. Like, he tried to press him with the idea of, like, when do you really need to know this answer from Jason? Here was Howie.
When do you need to know what Jason Kelce is going to do for 2024?
Well, I know this. I don't think that there's a scenario in any of our minds, starting with Jeffrey, where Jason ever plays anywhere else. So he deserves the time to decide what he wants to do. Obviously, we're going to accommodate that because he doesn't need to be rushed on that, and whatever.
But he was making it clear. You guys need to know by the start of the league year last year. He made that clear in the documentary. Is that when you need to know this year?
Well, a lot of things are different last year than this year.
All right.
It sounds to me like Howie's given him a longer leash this year. I mean, last year, Kelce said in the documentary they need to know by the start of the league year. That's coming up in about less than 2 weeks here. Howie didn't say that there. I think there should be a deadline here. 215-592-9494 to Hot Pitch. Should the Eagles give Kelce a deadline to make a decision? I believe it's got to be a hard one. 1 week from today.